I was ready to give up on acting. 7 years in Los Angeles, hundreds of auditions, and not one meaningful role. I'd finally bought a one-way ticket back to Ohio. This was it, my last day in the city that had broken me. I walked into a small cafe to kill time before my flight. Ordered a black coffee, sat down, and for the first time in a long while, I felt like a complete failure. That's when an elderly man at the next table looked at me and asked, "You're an actress, aren't you?" I almost lied. I almost said I used to be, or that I was just a waitress. But it was my last day, and I had nothing left to lose. So I told him the truth. And that truth changed everything. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know in the comments. Where are you watching from? And if you love stories about not giving up, unexpected connections, and finding hope again, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Now, let me take you back to the day I almost gave up on my dream. I was 29. Too old. I told myself, for a struggling actress with nothing to show. So I was leaving Los Angeles, not for a break, but for good. I had 2 suitcases, 1 carry-on, and a heart full of dreams that never came true. I'd moved here 7 years earlier, straight out of college, armed with a theater degree and small-town confidence. I was sure I'd make it. I was talented, dedicated, ready to work hard. But I had no idea how hard it really would be. 7 years of auditions. I stopped counting after 500. Callbacks that led nowhere. Roles I was perfect for that went to someone else. Casting directors who said I was too short, too old, too not quite right. I'd worked as a waitress the entire time. The cliche I swore I'd never become. But rent in LA doesn't care about dreams. I took acting classes I couldn't afford. Got an agent for 18 months, until he dropped me for not booking enough roles. I did student films, unpaid showcases, anything that might lead to something real. But nothing ever did. 3 months ago, I hit my breaking point. My roommate moved out, leaving me with double rent I couldn't pay. My parents had been gently suggesting for years that I come home. But lately, those suggestions weren't so gentle. "Honey, 7 years is enough. It's time to be realistic," I resisted. Until last week, when my landlord gave me an ultimatum, pay up or move out. So I gave up. I bought a one-way ticket to Columbus. My flight was at 6 p.m. Tuesday. I packed my life into 2 suitcases, sold what I could, left the rest on the curb, and said goodbye to my empty apartment. That morning, I woke up with nothing left to do and 8 hours to kill. I'd already cried, said my goodbyes, returned my waitress uniform. I didn't want to sit in that empty apartment anymore. So I went for a walk. One last walk through the city that had rejected me, but that I somehow still loved. I wandered through Silver Lake, past the cafes where I'd rehearsed lines, past the restaurants where I'd served brunch to people living the life I wanted. It was a perfect LA morning. Blue skies, warm sunlight, everything beautiful and cruel at once. Around 10 a.m., I turned onto a street I'd never noticed before. It was quiet, lined with old buildings and small shops. Tucked between a vintage bookstore and a plant shop was a cozy little cafe, the Willow Café, written in elegant script. I don't know why, but something about it pulled me in. The smell of coffee and pastries, the soft jazz, the sunlight spilling across mismatched tables, it felt peaceful, like it existed outside of Hollywood's chaos. I ordered a coffee from a barista with blue hair, sat down by the window, and just stared out. No phone, no book. Just me and the truth, that in 8 hours I'd be flying home to face everyone who believed I'd failed. Then that voice, "You're an actress, aren't you?" I turned. The man beside me looked to be in his 70s. White hair, kind eyes, the sort of face that held both wisdom and warmth. He smiled gently. What? I asked. You're an actress. Or you were. Or maybe you want to be. He chuckled softly. I can tell. I felt my defenses rise. How can you tell? I've been in this business a long time, he said. I know the look, the way you carry yourself, the expression in your eyes. You have that spark, and that particular kind of tiredness that comes from trying very hard for a very long time. I didn't know whether to feel flattered or insulted. Is it that obvious? I asked. He smiled. Only to someone who's been there. Then he gestured to my table. Mind if I join you? Coffee tastes better with company, I hesitated. I didn't know him, but it was my last day, and honestly, I didn't care anymore, so I nodded. And that's how the conversation began, the one that would change my entire life. There was nothing left to protect anymore. No image to maintain, no connections to chase, no reason to be anyone other than who I really was. Sure, I said when he asked to sit. He picked up his coffee and joined me at my table, moving carefully, like someone whose body had earned its aches. I'm Gordon, he said, offering his hand, Zoe. His handshake was firm but kind. So, Zoe, are you an actress? I looked down at my coffee. I was, or at least I tried to be. But today, I'm done trying. I've got a flight back to Ohio in a few hours. 7 years in LA, and I never booked anything that really mattered. So, I guess I'm not an actress anymore. He didn't say anything right away, just watched me with those calm, knowing eyes. That's a long time, he said finally. 7 years takes real dedication, or maybe real stubbornness. Most people give up sooner, maybe, I said. Or maybe most people don't have what it takes to last that long. He nodded. That's perseverance, Zoe, and that's rare. Perseverance doesn't pay rent, I said quietly. Talent doesn't matter if no one ever sees it. True enough, he replied, taking a sip. Tell me, what brought you here? What kept you going all those years? Something in his voice felt different. No judgment, just genuine curiosity. Maybe that's why I answered honestly. I fell in love with acting when I was 12, I said. It was a community theater play, Our Town. I played Emily. When I said those lines about how wonderful life is, something inside me woke up. I knew that's what I was meant to do. He smiled softly. That doesn't sound stupid at all. Go on. I did every school play, every local show. Everyone said I was good. My drama teacher told me to go professional, so I did. After college, I moved to LA, because that's what you do, right? If you want to make it, you go where dreams happen. And what happened when you got here? I laughed bitterly. Reality. Thousands of actresses fighting for the same few roles. Casting directors who can't remember your name. People saying you're too much of one thing, not enough of another. I did everything right. Classes, auditions, networking, and it was never enough. What kind of roles did you go for? Anything. Commercials, indie films, theater, whatever would let me work. But the feedback was always the same. Great audition, but not quite right. We loved you, but we're going in a different direction. It's like they were all reading from the same script. He chuckled softly. Yeah, I've heard those lines before. They're just polite ways of saying the timing wasn't right. It's not really about you, it's about fit. And fit is something you can't control. Then what can I control? Whether you show up as your true self. Whether you learn from rejection or let it destroy you. He paused. Can I ask, did you ever book anything at all? Small stuff, I said. Background roles, student films, one commercial that never aired, A showcase where 3 people showed up. Nothing that mattered. But you kept going for 7 years. Why? I thought for a long moment. Because I couldn't imagine doing anything else. Every time I was ready to quit, I'd get one good audition, one callback that gave me hope. I loved it, even when it was breaking me. He looked at me with kind eyes. Loving something isn't nothing, Zoe. Sometimes love just needs different circumstances to grow. Sometimes the timing's wrong, the people are wrong, the place is wrong. But that doesn't mean the love was wasted. It feels wasted, I whispered. 7 years and nothing to show for it. I'm 29 and moving back into my old bedroom. No career, no future, Gordon smiled gently. I know that feeling. I was a terrible actor once, I blinked. What? In my 20s, I wanted to be on stage. I moved to LA, took classes, went to auditions, and I was awful. No presence, no natural talent. After 3 painful years, I gave up. I thought I'd wasted my time. What did you do then? I became a director, he said simply. And I was good at it. Better than I ever was at acting. I directed for 40 years, made films I'm proud of, but I never would have found that path if I hadn't failed first. Something in his voice made me pause. Wait, what's your last name? Hart. Gordon Hart. My heart skipped. The Gordon Hart? The one who directed The Space Between Us? Redemption Road? He smiled sheepishly. That's me. Oh my God. I studied your films in college. You're a legend. I'm just an old man now, drinking coffee and talking to strangers, he said with a quiet laugh. But thank you. He leaned in slightly. Zoe, I told you my story because I want you to understand something. You came here chasing a dream. Maybe it won't look the way you thought it would, but that doesn't mean it was the wrong dream. Sometimes what feels like an ending is really the middle. You just can't see the rest yet. We sat in silence for a while. The cafe was calm, a soft hum of life around us. Outside, LA kept moving, loud, restless, alive. And for the first time in years, I felt still. The city outside kept moving, busy, indifferent, unaware of the small moment unfolding inside that quiet cafe. Can I ask you something? Gordon said, his voice thoughtful. When you audition, what do you actually do? How do you prepare? I learn my lines, make choices about the character, and practice until I feel ready, I said. Then I go in and give my best performance. He tilted his head. Do you perform, or do you just exist? What do you mean? I've watched thousands of auditions, he said. And I can always tell the difference between someone who's trying to act and someone who's just being the ones who book the roles. They're not performing. They're living truthfully in the moment. I thought about my auditions, the nerves, the desperation to impress, the endless need to be what I thought they wanted. I think I've been performing, I admitted softly. For 7 years, he smiled gently. That's exhausting, isn't it? It really is. Gordon checked his watch. What time's your flight? 6 p.m. I should probably head to the airport in a few hours. He hesitated, thinking. Then he said, Zoe, can I ask you for a favor? Before you leave LA, before you give up entirely, would you meet my granddaughter? Your granddaughter? Her name's Jane. She's a director. It's her first feature film, small, independent, but beautiful. She's been searching for her lead actress for months. None of them have felt right. Too polished, too performative. But talking to you right now, I think you might be exactly what she's looking for. I stared at him. Are you offering me an audition? I'm offering you a meeting, he said. I can't promise anything. Jane makes her own choices. But I can introduce you? You have nothing to lose, Zoe. You're leaving anyway. What's a few more hours? My heart was racing. It sounded impossible, like the universe was teasing me with one last glimmer of hope. I don't even have a headshot anymore, I said. I threw them out when I packed. Jane doesn't care about headshots, he said firmly. She cares about truth, about whether an actress can inhabit a character honestly. Can you do that? I don't know, I whispered. 7 years of rejection says maybe not. Or maybe, Gordon said quietly. You were just auditioning for the wrong people. In the wrong rooms. For the wrong roles. He leaned forward. I'm not promising you the part, Zoe. But I am promising that Jane will see you, really see you, in a way no casting director ever has. Isn't that worth trying? I thought about my flight. About Ohio, about failure, and about this strange, impossible moment that didn't feel like coincidence. Okay, I said. Yes, I'll meet her, Gordon smiled, a genuine, warm smile. Good. Let me call her. He stepped outside with his phone. I sat there, my heart pounding, my coffee cold. This couldn't be real. Not after 7 years of nothing. A few minutes later, he returned. Jane can meet us here in an hour. She's excited. I told her about you. Not that you're a struggling actress, but that you understand the emotional truth she's been searching for. That's soon, I said, my voice shaking. I just need to call my parents, tell them I might take a later flight. Of course, he said. I stepped outside and called my mom. She picked up on the second ring. Honey, is everything okay? Aren't you supposed to be at the airport soon? I was, but something happened. I met a director. He wants to introduce me to his granddaughter. She's casting a film. I might have an audition. There was a long pause. Zoe, she said softly, full of concern. Please don't break your heart again. I won't, I promised. Just give me one more day. If it doesn't work out, I'll be home tomorrow. Another pause. Then, quietly, okay, but be careful, honey. I will. I hung up and went back inside. Gordon looked up. Everything okay? Yes, I said. I'm staying one more day. Good, he said. Now tell me, when was the last time you acted? Not auditioned? Actually acted just for the love of it. I thought about it. Years, probably. Everything became about auditions and survival. I stopped doing it for joy. He nodded. That's the problem. You stopped being an actress and started being someone trying to get hired. Those are two very different things, he looked at me seriously. When you meet Jane, don't try to impress her. Don't perform. Just be yourself. If she asks you to read, don't act the lines, exist in them. Can you do that? I can try, I said. That's all anyone can ask. 50 minutes later, Jane Hart walked into the cafe. She looked to be in her early 30s. Dark curly hair tied in a loose bun, jeans, an oversized sweater. She had her grandfather's kind eyes and an energy that felt both intense and warm. She carried a worn leather bag filled with scripts. Gordon stood and hugged her. Jane, this is Zoe Palmer. Jane smiled and shook my hand, her grip firm and confident. Hi, Zoe. Grandpa's told me wonderful things about you. Thanks for meeting me on such short notice. Thank you for seeing me, I said. I'm desperate, honestly, Jane laughed. I've been searching for my lead actress for 4 months. My producers are getting nervous. We start shooting in 6 weeks and I still don't have my Natalie. Natalie? The main character in my film, it's called What We Carry. It's about 2 women at very different stages in life. One's in her 20s, struggling to find herself. The other's in her 50s, learning to let go of who she used to be. Natalie's the younger one, standing at a crossroads, trying to decide whether to keep chasing her dream or finally give up. A chill ran through me. That was my life. Exactly my life. That sounds beautiful, I said quietly. It is, or at least I hope it will be, Jane smiled. It's not a big film, indie budget, but it's honest. It's about connection, timing, and the moments that change us. My grandfather's films inspired me to make it. Gordon smiled proudly. You're already a better director than I ever was, Jane laughed. You're biased. Then she turned to me. Zoe, I'll be honest. I'm exhausted from auditions. I've seen so many talented actresses, but they all feel fake. Like they're showing me what they think I want to see. I want someone real. Does that make sense? It does, I said. Grandpa said you've been acting for 7 years, she continued. What kept you going? Her question was so direct, so sincere, that I couldn't give a polished answer. Love, I said finally. I loved acting, before it became about rejection and survival. I loved inhabiting other lives, exploring emotion, connecting with people. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being about love and started being about proving I was good enough. I had almost given up on acting. Years of rejection, endless auditions, and people telling me, you're just not the right fit. Each no had chipped away at me until I started believing maybe I really wasn't good enough. Then, one quiet morning at the Willow Café, I met Jane. She'd heard I used to act and asked if I'd read a scene with her. I told her I haven't acted in months. I might be rusty. But she smiled and said, Rust is better than polish. She handed me a few pages, a scene about a woman giving up on her dream of being a painter. It wasn't just a script. It was my life. As I read those lines, I stopped pretending to be a character. I was just speaking my truth. Every fear, every doubt, every tear I had buried for years. When we finished, Jane looked at me quietly and said, That was exactly what I've been searching for. You weren't acting. You were being. That afternoon, she invited me to her apartment to film a few test scenes. No fancy studio. Just a small camera, soft light, and raw honesty. For the first time in years, I stopped trying to impress anyone. I just existed in the words. When we were done, Jane said softly, I need to show this to my producer. You're the first person who's felt right for this role. You are the character. That night I couldn't sleep. I had no bed, just the floor of my empty apartment, and a fragile spark of hope I was too scared to believe in. The next morning, my phone rang. Zoe, it's Jane, she said. My producer saw your footage. He loved you. We'd like to offer you the lead role, I cried. For the first time, they weren't tears of defeat. They were tears of relief. $15,000. Not much, but enough to stay in LA, enough to keep my dream alive. The next 6 weeks were a blur. Rehearsals, script work, long nights. But I felt alive again. For the first time, I wasn't pretending to be an actress. I was one. We shot the film. What We Carry. It was raw, emotional, and the hardest thing I'd ever done. But it was also the most honest work of my life. Jane became not just my director, but my friend. Gordon, who introduced us, became my quiet mentor. A year later, our film premiered at Sundance. No trophies, no red carpet fairy tales, but a standing ovation that felt like a lifetime of rejection melting away. Critics called the film honest, intimate, devastatingly human. Agents started calling. I signed with one who believed in me, not in fame. I booked a small but meaningful role in a series. For the first time, I was building a career, not chasing validation. A year later, I went back to Willow Café. Gordon was sitting at his usual table reading the paper. I sat down across from him. He smiled. "Zoe, I saw your show." "You were wonderful." "Thank you," I said. "For everything. You changed my life." He shook his head. "I didn't change your life. You did. You were ready. You just needed someone to notice." I told him I was about to leave LA that day when we first met. He smiled gently. "Maybe you were supposed to walk in that cafe at exactly that moment." Timing is everything, in acting and in life. It's not fate. It's readiness meeting opportunity. And he was right. That cafe didn't save me. Honesty did. The moment I stopped trying to perform my life and started living it, everything changed. Sometimes all it takes is one moment, one stranger, one honest conversation to remind you who you really are. So tell me, have you ever had a stranger see something in you that you'd stopped seeing in yourself? If this story touched your heart, hit the like button, share it with someone who might need a little hope today, and subscribe for more stories that remind us why we should never give up. Because sometimes, the moment you think your story is over is exactly when the real one begins. Gordon was right. That cafe didn't save me. Honesty did. The moment I stopped trying to perform my life and started living it, everything changed. Sometimes, the universe doesn't give you what you want. It gives you who you need to meet, to remind you that your story isn't over. Because one stranger, one small moment of truth, can shift the entire direction of your life. So if you're standing at your own crossroads right now, don't give up. Keep believing, keep showing up, and stay open to what life might whisper next. You never know. Your Gordon might be sitting at the next table, waiting to remind you who you really are. Tell me in the comments, have you ever met someone who changed your life in an unexpected way? If this story touched your heart, tap the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who needs a little hope today. Because sometimes, the moment you think your story is ending is exactly when the real one begins.